Hello, my name is Shmuel, and I decided to start a podcast. Why? Because so many people like what I say and my smile and how happy I always am, and people like to talk to me. People like to discuss things that sometimes I don't even know how to discuss, but usually I do. I decided that if many people like what I say and what I do and how I talk, then maybe I should start a podcast and make it easier for me and better for everyone else. I could talk for hours and hours, and people could listen and they could be interested in what I have to say. So here it goes. I was thinking, I watch a lot of podcasts. That's why I decided to start a podcast of my own. I noticed that Joe Rogan, look at his face. It looks like he's wearing a mask. Doesn't move his eyes. Doesn't move his eyebrows. And he rarely smiles or any of that. And when he does, you could tell clearly that it's some kind of mask underneath it. A very sophisticated one. But it's not one which is like natural. It doesn't look like that is his face. And the same goes with Trump. Look at him. It doesn't look like he's actually the person I think he is. Because I think he's an alien. I think these people are far beyond what we can understand. And they always say such smart things. They're much smarter than the rest of us. Most people have a self-intention. They just want to care about themselves. They just want to do what is best for them. They don't care about the future, about what's going to happen in 100 years from now. These guys sure do. Notice the whole entire system with the health system. Notice about how these people who run our programs and institutions and just care about themselves. The insurance companies make so much money. Why don't they care about the future of humanity? Don't they realize that one day we're going to be able to develop medicine that can make people live forever? Do you know how important this is? It's very important that people are going to live longer, because why is somebody, God forbid, kill somebody, that person spends 30 years in prison, and there's a good reason for that. They destroyed life, and a human life. If it's going to be, they hunted an animal already, they could get a fine for that. If you're going to eat it, totally different. But if you kill a human being, how could you do that? So when somebody is causing life to take longer to end, and make life longer, and develop medicine that could reverse the aging process. Any medicine is really reversing the aging process, but it doesn't reverse it enough that it's really worth living unless there's an afterlife. There's got to be an afterlife. There's got to be another world that we go to when we die, whether you believe in God or not. There's no question about it. There is another world. We just don't know what it is. And if somebody could make this life longer, then that's stuff we do know about. We don't know what's in the next world. We don't know. We have no idea. We do know that there is a life on this planet, on this world, and that life is very precious. And we know that one day science is going to invent that, like I was saying, that you can live forever. So why shouldn't they let it happen? But these people just care about money. They just care about themselves. They don't care about anything besides for themselves. And even themselves, they don't even think straight when they do that. But the truth is, if we all work together and we're all good to each other and didn't hurt anybody, and we were all sensitive to other people's feelings, and put the other person before yourself, you know how much better the world would be to live in? If every single person in the world cared about other people like nobody else, and they just cared about the other person, and the other person cared about them. But if we all just care about ourselves, then what kind of world do we live in? Most people in the world don't think the way I'm talking. They're going to say, well, why should I work? Why should I work if I don't make money? I'm only going to work if I make money. If there's no money involved, then there's no reason to work. Well, what does work cost you? If you're going to hold the door open for somebody or smile at somebody or be compassionate to somebody when they're going through a hard time, what does that cost you? Absolutely nothing. So if we all are sensitive to other people's feelings and don't hurt other people, we'll be a lot better. The whole world will be a better place to live in. You know, there's so many things someone can do to make other people's lives better. It's just so easy to give someone a smile or lend someone a hand. Or sometimes there's bigger things where it's people you trust and they need you to lend them money. Why shouldn't you lend them money? It doesn't cost you anything. I have money in my savings account that I could lend out. I don't need to worry about whether they're not going to pay me back, because they are going to pay me back. If they're not going to pay me back, there's a different story. If it's a stranger, definitely don't. But if someone you know well, a friend you knew for years, then why shouldn't you do them a favor? And a stranger, why frown at somebody? Why respond nasty things when somebody smiles at you? No, people do that because I know that I'm a very friendly person. I try not to brag about it, but sometimes I'm on a podcast, so I got to tell you, I don't really know myself. To be honest, I don't really know myself. If you ask my friends, they know me better. But they tell me that I'm a very nice person, a very sweet person, always smiling at everyone. And sometimes I get like nasty responses. And that's not even not they just said something not nice. Usually it's just they didn't say anything. You know, sometimes people need to think before they talk. I personally don't get hurt by anybody. Nothing bothers me. Nothing could annoy me. You have to really, really be nasty to me to piss me off. And nobody has done that before. You know, when people try to hurt other people and do bad things, people say how bad it is. Good people say how bad it is, but those good people don't realize that they're not the greatest people either. Because you have to do good things to other people. You know, most people in the world will not work unless you pay them money, which is the most disgusting thing in the world in my eyes. Why should somebody not want to do something for somebody else, do them a favor, give them a ride because they didn't get money? It's like, money is like just paper. It could buy something. Yes, you could definitely do a lot with money. And money is important, but it's not enough to not do something because you didn't get money. You can't worship money. If you worship money, you're just something's wrong with you. Everybody in the world at some point in their life has come across some person who was very, very genuinely sweet and nice and a good person. There aren't many of those in the world. But try to be like that person. Try to be good to others. We all know there are many stories about people who we thought were good people and really they were very bad people. There are many stories where somebody was up at the top in religion, in all major religions, and they went to the top of the religion. They were known to be the greatest person alive, one of the greatest people alive, and it turned out they weren't really. They had things behind their back, up their sleeves, that were not what you really thought they were. And really, they were doing horrible, horrible things behind the scenes, and they were really not good people. So it's hard to say who's really a good person. We don't know. Only God knows. Only God knows who's really a good person, who's a bad person. But we know who we are. At least to some extent, we know that if we did something wrong, we should know that we did something wrong. There are many people who just, they do something wrong and they don't think it's wrong, they think it's good. That's actually the way most people who do bad things do, actually. They usually when they say that they're doing something bad, usually if someone says they're doing something bad, it means they know there's something wrong with it. And people are still human. They don't want to do something bad. The only way a human being could do something so bad, like some of the most evil people in the world, is that they do something and they tell themselves it's okay. It starts small. They tell themselves, oh, it's so small. And it gets worse and worse and worse until they have done the worst things in the world possible. And when somebody does that, they become bad people, of course. Well, much worse than that. They go to another world, and they obviously stay that bad person. Now, we don't know what's next, but we know that when somebody dies, they're still that person, right? They die, they're not there anymore. We don't know really where they went. But the one thing for sure is that they can't be another person once they left this world. Where they went. We don't know. But one thing I'll say is that it doesn't hurt to do good things. Doing good things can only do good things. And doing bad things can only do bad things. So you have to do what you're supposed to do. And that's up to you what you think you're supposed to do. You're supposed to do what looks right. But also, you have to listen to your chamim. Your wise people. In Hebrew it's called chachamim. And I use that word, even though I know many people are listening to this podcast who don't know what that means, so I have to explain it. But are wise people, and you have to realize that most of us aren't wise. You have to realize even the wise of us are not the wisest, because we have AI. We realize AI is a lot smarter than anyone else alive. So if you put all that intelligence together and you get AI, I don't think that the smartest people in the world, like Elon Musk, are as smart as that. I think that they're still not the smartest, but we got to do our best. We got to listen to smart people. When smart people tell us to do good things, we have to listen to them and tell them that they're right. I'm not saying I'm the smartest person. I know I'm not the smartest person. I'm just trying my best to say whatever I can and do the best I can in talking on a podcast. Because I know that I have what to say. And I can talk to people and they're going to say, wow, I think you're right. But it's not me talking. It's not me. There's just a lot of information together that I got from different places. And I put it together, and this is what I came out with over this podcast. This won't be the last podcast. I'm going to have many more podcasts to come. But this is a lot of information I'm putting together into one podcast. Now back to our podcast. Nobody really knows whether they're going to paradise, Gan Eden, or Gehenna, which is hell. No one really knows where they're going. We only know that if we know that we don't know, and we just try our best, then we're going to get somewhere. But if we think we know everything, and we can't learn anything new, and that nobody knows anything except for us to some extent. Of course, no one really thinks that. But they sometimes will say, like, I know everything. This person says, I know everything. But this person doesn't know anything. If the person says they know everything, chances are they don't know anything. They know maybe like one thing or two things that other people don't know. And because of that, they think they know everything. There's something to learn from everyone. Now, there are many stupid people in the world, and you have to watch out for them and not believe what they say. Because those stupid people are just doing the opposite of information and knowledge and intelligence. They're just putting the world down and making the world a worse place to be. And the world's a wonderful place, don't get me wrong. But where there are nasty, toxic people, those people are really, really, really toxic. You have to watch out for toxic people. They're not good. You have to know that those people don't know anything, but what do you learn from them? You learn from them how not to act. And then there's always something you can learn from them. There's always something that you can learn from them. And very often, something you learn from them will be the most amazing thing in the world, but you have to know how to do it. You have to make sure not to believe the nonsense that they say and talk about what they say and spread it, because they don't really know anything. And because today with technology and social media, it's so easy to spread disinformation, and the disinformation doesn't come from people who would show their faces. The people who show their faces online and talk, and you go to my social media account on Facebook, SHMUEL, and then last name WEIL. I'm there. And people who don't want to show their faces and just want to, hide behind a fake account, those are most of the disinformation. Because if somebody showed their face, they wouldn't say something unless they actually believed it, because they don't want to ruin their reputation. It's just natural. I know there are many people who do bad things. Sometimes they just, they were very hurt in their life, and they just care about hurting the rest of the world. But that's not very much of it. Most of it is really that of people who don't show their faces. So it's not really that hard to filter out information online. But what about in person? Some people are just listening to all the nonsense on the media, and I'm not talking about right, left, Republican, Democrat. There's just so much nonsense there on both sides of the aisle, all the sides of the aisle, because nobody really knows anything. Everyone's really confused. And all these media companies, the problem with these media companies is that they want to follow a narrative that, whatever what it is, but they want to follow what they said in the past. They don't want to be proven wrong. They don't want to have to apologize. So they're going to very often just talk about something like they know everything, and then they didn't know everything, so they'll play along, and they'll not report certain stuff that could ruin the narrative. But then when Elon Musk bought Twitter, everything changed. All these other companies realized they can't do that anymore, and they stopped doing it. Most of them, or mostly, because we know that when Joe Rogan interviewed Donald Trump, it just didn't show up on YouTube. So it was kind of a problem, because people wanted to watch it and they couldn't watch it because it wasn't there to scroll down all the way or whatever. Maybe it didn't even show up. I actually didn't experience it myself. I actually was able to find it right away. So I don't know. I don't know what happened, but I heard from many friends that they said that that's what happened, and they weren't able to watch it easily. So you have to go to Twitter or whatever. Twitter had it. I remember seeing on Twitter that Joe Rogan posted the whole podcast because so many people are having a hard time finding it on YouTube. Now, also, don't get me wrong. I mean, YouTube is a good platform. A lot of good people that know what they're doing. There's a lot of good stuff on there. But the point is that YouTube, for a reason, had to do that. And we all know that it was really the Biden administration that caused all that. They told them they have to do that because we know that Mark Zuckerberg said that they did. And they didn't really want to censor as much as they did. Now, of course, it's because they lost all that money from Twitter, because Twitter wasn't censoring anything, and they were. But we know that Twitter also censored things in the past, and they stopped because Elon took it over. But Mark Zuckerberg said that he didn't want to censor. The Biden administration made it happen. The Biden administration forced them to do it. But then they said that they didn't want to do it. They told them they're not doing it, and then they said they're going to do it anyway. Then why would Elon Musk bought Twitter, then all of a sudden it changed? See my question? If Mark Zuckerberg says that the Biden administration forced them to do it, and they couldn't stop doing it because the Biden administration forced them to do it, right? And if they did that, then why is Twitter any different? Because Mark Zuckerberg was the CEO, and it was only the Biden administration that wanted it, not the people who were buying stocks. So I don't really believe that. I think that other people wanted it too, not just the Biden administration. And when Elon Musk bought Twitter, they were able to do that because he owns the platform completely. But anyway, And by the way, if you disagree with anything I was saying, feel free to send me a DM on Facebook. Again, SHMUELWEAL on Facebook. That's where you can reach me. Only social media I have. And you could DM me and talk to me about this. And maybe we could bring you on the show, on the podcast. And also, maybe I'll mention what I responded. You guys that's a good question. And then I'll mention on the podcast, hey, someone DM'd me something incredible question. And then here's the answer. Now, I'm just talking. I'm not really, saying everything. I'm trying my best, but I'm not getting these information from research, background checked, information. This information is just what I decided to say, what I think is true. And also, if you DM me, you might even be able to get me to change my mind. And then we're going to start the next podcast on a whole nother foot. But for now, this is what I'm saying. I think that all of humanity should get together. I think that the internet could be a great thing if it's not misused like it has been many times by all these censorships. And if we were all together I want to say something interesting that actually I heard on a different podcast. I'll put it was Joe Rogan. He said, imagine if aliens came and invaded all of a sudden China, US, Japan, everybody, Russia, Iran, would all be united and say, we're not able to deal with this. This is just something we never heard of before. These aliens are trying to, exterminate humanity because they're just bugs to them, and it's not good. This is just not good. And we would all get together. But think about it this way: there's something called nuclear war, which is much more scary than that. Right? I mean, maybe about as scary, but it's very scary. Imagine how the world will look like if it was a nuclear war, and the world would be just over. We wouldn't be able to imagine it. There'd be no one to imagine it anymore. But imagine it now. That's scary. So what are we going to do about it? Well, first of all, we have to have our anti-ICBM missiles ready to go. I don't know why we only have 55 of them or whatever it is ready to go. Each one's a couple $1 million, but we have to have it. The military spends $800 billion a year. They should be able to get these anti-ICBMs together. And there's only 55 of them. There's thousands of nukes ready in Russia. So how in God's name do we actually not have enough nuclear anti-ICBMs for nuclear ready to intercept a lot of ICBMs? I really don't get that. We need to have more of them. Now, besides for that, there's other ways to do it, which is that we should have peace. We have to have, right, so Donald Trump's got peace through strength, that he wants to do that. But regardless if it's Biden or, of course not Biden, but let's say he can't do anything. He doesn't even know if he was president. But if someone was, let's say, like a Democrat, like, who is a good Democrat? RFK Jr. So RFK Jr., if he would have been president, it would have been the same thing. I mean, Donald Trump is great and everything, but like him or not, but he's a great person. But I don't think it would have been any different if RFK Jr. would have been elected. It would have been the same thing. They're exactly the same thing if they're the president. There's only one human being. There's only one human being in the office. Yes, he can make a big difference. Yes, he could do a lot with his power, with his influence, with his power. But what he could do is only limited to one human being, right? He has other people working for him, but he's only one human being. And those other people working for him don't really change exactly unless he fires people and hires people. And I don't think it's about Democrat and Republican. I think it's just that most people who are good people are on the Republican side, and Democrats, because they listen to everybody and want to do good for bad people like China. They just want it. They just became bad. But I don't think that they're actually inside bad people. And I think it could be, by the way, these people who are doing bad things could be on the Republican side also. I don't know. And I don't think anyone knows. And you can't claim to know anything. You can't claim that no one knows everything and you know everything. I can't claim that I know anything and anyone else knows nothing or anything. No one really knows what's happening today. Yes, Donald Trump thinks he knows a lot. Joe Rogan thinks he knows a lot. Elon Musk thinks he knows a lot. But does anyone really know a lot? Like, actually a lot? To the point that they could say they know a lot? They do know a lot, but they could still know more. And today with internet, so much is censored still till today. And even with Elon Musk buying Twitter, Elon Musk is a Republican now. He was a Democrat. And he could be pushing those agendas. And by the way, like, who do you say he's doing something wrong? If he's pushing right-wing propaganda, so you always say that's not something wrong. But it is wrong. It is wrong. Because you have to have a way of that people are going to be fed the information based on truth. But how do you do that? That's not really possible. So no one, he's wrong, but there's nothing you can do about it. Now let me get back to what I was talking about with socially how people should act. I think that, like, if someone believes in themselves, they could do anything, but that's very complicated and it's very hard to know what that means. I think they could trick the person's mind into thinking that it could do anything, and it really will be able to do anything. Now, obviously, we know there are drugs that people take, like steroids, like meth, like, well, all of us, caffeine. But I'm talking about where you can just tell yourself, I can do it. I don't care if I didn't drink a coffee this morning and I'm used to it. I can do it anyway. And if someone says that I could do it anyway, or I can do it, or that this is possible, they'll be able to do it. If you tell yourself you can't do it, you can't do it. Sometimes there are certain things we can't do. Like, we know we can't fly. Okay, you know that, right? But we know that also, if somebody tells themselves they will not be able to drive a car when they're learning to drive a car, or someone's in college and says, I'll never be able to focus on this, I'll never be able to finish this 8-year course, I don't think they're ever going to be able to. And if you tell yourself you can, you're putting in that you can't. So you got to just say, I'm going to do it. I don't care about anything. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Nothing matters. I'm going to do it. I'm going to have a good day today. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to do everything I need to do today. Get everything done. I manage a restaurant. I am going to make all the customers happy and get a lot of 5-star reviews. I am going to make sure that if something comes up that I need to handle, that it's going to be handled right and with a smile and inside, of course, because when you're dealing with the problems, when something happens in the restaurant, sometimes you can't exactly smile, but you have to be happy to do it and be ready to deal with anything and not care if that's going to affect you. Just care about doing the right thing and doing everything good. So this reaches the end of our podcast. I'll talk to you next time.